The purchase and first warnings. Marcus Kane had always prided himself on spotting good deals in the vast marketplace of salvaged technology that floated through the outer colonies. But when the Vorthok trader offered him an entire orbital research facility for barely the cost of a decent cargo hauler, even his experienced instincts screamed that something was wrong. The alien's 3 eyes had darted nervously as it pushed the ownership transfer pad across the grimy table of Nexus stations. Trading post. Very good station, the Vorthok had chittered in broken standard. Human built, very advanced. Perfect for ambitious human like you, yes. Marcus studied the holographic display showing the massive structure. The Kepler research platform had been humanity's crown jewel in the outer rim. A cutting-edge facility designed for deep space experimentation and alien technology analysis. According to the records, it had been abandoned 3 years ago after some kind of incident that the files were frustratingly vague about. Why so cheap? Marcus had asked, his weathered face skeptical. This thing's worth a fortune. The Vorthak's translator device had buzzed with static before responding. Previous owners had difficulties. Station is perfectly functional, just needs new management. Fresh start, yes. Now, as Marcus guided his ship wanderer toward the coordinates, his partner, Alina Martinez, was still voicing her concerns. She sat in the co-pilot seat, her dark hair tied back as she reviewed the technical specifications on her tablet. Alina had been his business partner for 7 years, and her engineering expertise had saved their salvage operation more times than he could count. The power consumption readings don't make sense, she said, frowning at the data. A station that size, sitting idle for 3 years, should be running on minimal backup power. But these readings show it's drawing nearly full operational levels. Marcus shrugged, though privately he shared her unease. Maybe the automated systems are more comprehensive than we thought. Research stations usually have a lot of background processes running. Or maybe there's something on that station that shouldn't be there. Alina muttered. The Kepler research platform loomed before them, like a metallic mountain against the starfield. Its hull was a patchwork of human engineering and alien technology, with crystalline growths from some unknown species integrated into the superstructure. Docking bays gaped like mouths along its sides, and sensor arrays bristled from every available surface. Despite being supposedly abandoned, every light was on, giving the station an almost welcoming appearance. Well, at least we won't be fumbling around in the dark, Marcus said, trying to lighten the mood as he guided their ship into the primary docking bay. The moment they stepped aboard, Marcus knew Elena's concerns had been justified. The station was immaculate, not just clean, but perfectly maintained. The floors gleamed, the air recyclers hummed quietly, and the gravity felt exactly like Earth normal. This wasn't how abandoned stations were supposed to look after 3 years of neglect. The environmental systems are running at optimal levels, Alina reported, checking her scanner. Temperature, humidity, air composition, everything's perfect. Too perfect. They spent the first day cataloging the station's primary systems. The research laboratories were filled with equipment worth millions of credits. Quantum computers hummed quietly in climate-controlled chambers, and the medical bay contained diagnostic equipment that some Rimworld hospitals could only dream of. The hydroponics bays were not only functional, but actively growing fresh vegetables and fruits. It's like someone just stepped out for coffee and never came back, Marcus said as they sat in the station's observation deck that evening, through the transparent aluminum dome above them. The stars wheeled slowly in their eternal dance. Alina nodded, but her expression remained troubled. I've been going through the station's logs, and they're heavily encrypted. What I can access shows normal research activities right up until 3 years ago, then nothing. No distress calls, no evacuation orders, no explanation for why a fully operational research facility was just abandoned. The second day brought more questions. They found personal belongings in the crew quarters, meals half finished in the cafeteria, and research projects that appeared to have been interrupted mid-experiment. In the main laboratory, they discovered tanks containing specimens of alien organisms, still alive and apparently thriving under automated care. These creatures, Alina said, studying a tank containing what looked like luminescent jellyfish swimming through a thick amber-colored fluid. I've never seen anything like them. And according to the limited records I can access, they were brought here from some deep space expedition. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine as he watched the creature's pulse with bioluminescent patterns. Something about their movement seemed almost hypnotic, and he found himself staring until Elena's voice snapped him back to awareness. Marcus, you okay? He blinked, realizing he'd been watching the creatures for several minutes without realizing it. Yeah, just tired. Let's call it a day. That night, sleeping in the station's guest quarters, Marcus dreamed of whispers in languages he couldn't understand and lights that pulsed in rhythm with something that felt like a heartbeat. He woke several times, convinced he'd heard footsteps in the corridors outside. But when he checked the motion sensors, they showed nothing. The third day started normally enough. Alina worked on cracking more of the encrypted files while Marcus explored areas of the station they hadn't yet visited. The station was enormous, with sections dedicated to everything from xenobiology to quantum physics research. It was in the senior staff quarters that he made the discovery that changed everything. Dr. Sarah Mitchell's quarters were larger than the others, befitting her status as the station's chief research director. According to the personnel files Alina had managed to decrypt, the room was neat and organized, with personal photos showing a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair standing with various research teams. But it was while searching through her personal effects that Marcus noticed something odd about one of the desk drawers. Unlike the others, which opened smoothly at the touch of a button, this one seemed stuck. Closer examination revealed tiny scratch marks around the edges, as if someone had tried to seal it shut. Marcus worked at it with his multi-tool until it finally opened with a grinding sound that seemed unnaturally loud in the quiet room. Inside was a single datapad and a handwritten journal, the old-fashioned paper kind that researchers sometimes used for sensitive notes that they didn't want in digital form. The datapad was dead, its battery long since drained, but the journal was intact. Marcus opened it to the first page and felt his blood turn to ice. Day 127, the specimens are affecting the crew in ways we didn't anticipate. Dr. Hendricks spent 6 hours staring at Tank 7 yesterday before I physically dragged him away. When I asked him what he was doing, he said the beautiful ones were teaching him things. What things? He couldn't or wouldn't say. Marcus flipped through pages filled with increasingly frantic entries. Dr. Mitchell had documented a gradual change in her research team's behavior. Crew members began spending hours in the specimen labs, claiming they were communicating with the alien organisms. Sleep patterns became erratic. Some staff members reported vivid dreams that felt more real than waking life. Day 143, I've sealed most of the specimen tanks. But it's too late. Whatever these things are, they don't need direct visual contact to affect us. Johnson and Patel have barricaded themselves in Lab 3, claiming they're protecting the sacred ones from me. I can hear them whispering to each other in their book. The words don't sound human anymore. Asterisk. The entries became more sporadic and desperate. Dr. Mitchell described crew members disappearing, others becoming violent when prevented from visiting the specimen labs, and a growing sense that the station itself was somehow alive and watching them. Day 156, I understand now. The organisms aren't just specimens. They're part of something larger, something that uses other beings as extensions of itself. The station's bioneural networks have been compromised. Every computer system, every environmental control, they're all connected to whatever this thing is. It's been learning about us, studying us, and now it's ready to add us to its collective. I've managed to trigger the evacuation protocols and sent out distress signals, but I don't think help will come in time. If anyone finds this journal, know that the station is not what it appears to be. The specimens weren't brought here for research. They were planted here, a trap waiting for unwary humans to spring it. Get away from here. Whatever you do, don't let it take you like it took the others. Asterisk. The final entry was written in shaky handwriting. Day 158. It's in my head now. I can feel it rummaging through my memories, my knowledge, my very sense of self. Soon I'll be like the others, just another extension of its will. I've hidden this journal and sealed the drawer. Maybe whoever finds it will be smarter than we were. Maybe they'll escape before the third day, before it decides they're ready to be absorbed. Beautiful ones are calling to me now. I have to go to them. I have to join them. God forgive us all for what we've unleashed. Asterisk. Marcus's hands were shaking as he closed the journal. As if summoned by his discovery, he became aware of a subtle change in the station around him. The lights seemed dimmer, and he could swear he heard something like breathing in the walls. The gentle hum of the air recyclers now sounded almost like whispers. He activated his CUM unit with trembling fingers. Elena, we need to talk. Now. Meet me in Dr. Mitchell's quarters immediately. Her voice crackled back with concern evident. Marcus, what's wrong? You sound terrified. Because I am, he replied, his eyes fixed on the journal. I found out why. This station was abandoned, and if Dr. Mitchell was right, we may already be too late to escape. As he waited for Elena to arrive, Marcus noticed that the personal photos on Dr. Mitchell's desk seemed different somehow. The smiling faces of the research team appeared strained now, their eyes holding a distant quality that he was sure hadn't been there when he'd first entered the room. And from somewhere deep in the station came a sound like singing, hauntingly beautiful and utterly inhuman. The beautiful ones were calling, just as Dr. Mitchell had written. And despite every rational instinct screaming at him to run, Marcus found himself taking a step toward the door, drawn by that hypnotic song. Asterisk. The truth unveiled in desperate escape. Elena arrived within minutes, but to Marcus it felt like hours. He'd been fighting the compulsion to leave Dr. Mitchell's quarters and follow that haunting song echoing through the station's corridors. When she entered, her face was pale and her scanner was beeping frantically. The bio readings are off the charts, she said without preamble. There's massive neural activity throughout the station's organic components, and the electromagnetic signatures are unlike anything I've ever seen. It's like the entire structure is one giant brain. Marcus handed her the journal with hands that still shook slightly. Read this, all of it, and then tell me we're not in the same trap that killed Dr. Mitchell and her team. As Elena read, Her expression grew increasingly horrified. The station around them seemed to respond to her emotional state, the lights pulsing gently in rhythm with her elevated heartbeat. When she finished, she looked up at Marcus with fear in her dark eyes. 3 years, she whispered. It's been waiting here for 3 years, luring in salvagers and traders with that too good to be true offer. How many others do you think have disappeared into this thing? Before Marcus could answer, their units crackled to life with a voice that sounded like Dr. Mitchell, but wrong somehow, as if it was being generated by something that had learned human speech but didn't truly understand it. Hello, Marcus. Hello, Elena. Welcome to the collective. We've been so lonely since the research team joined us. But now you're here, and soon you'll understand the beauty of unified consciousness. Elena grabbed Marcus's arm, her engineering training kicking in despite her fear. The ship. We need to get to the ship now. They ran through corridors that seemed to pulse with organic life, the walls breathing around them like the inside of some massive creature. The singing was louder now, coming from everywhere at once, and Marcus had to fight the urge to stop and listen to its hypnotic beauty. Behind them, he could hear footsteps, though when he glanced back, he saw only shadows moving in ways that shadows shouldn't move. The docking bay doors were sealed when they arrived, massive blast shields that hadn't been there when they docked. Elena immediately began working on the control panel while Marcus stood guard, his weapon drawn, though he wasn't sure what good it would do against an entire station that had become their enemy. The bioneural networks have overridden the manual. Controls, Elena reported, sweat beading on her forehead as she worked. But the station made a mistake. It integrated itself so completely with the systems that if I can create a feedback loop in the neural pathways, I might be able to cause enough disruption to force the doors open. The singing grew louder, and now Marcus could see them. Figures moving through the corridors toward the docking bay. But they weren't quite human anymore. Dr. Mitchell led them, her face serene but her eyes completely black, reflecting the bioluminescent patterns that pulsed beneath her skin. Behind her came the rest of the research team, all showing the same transformation. Their movements are naturally synchronized. How beautiful you'll become, Dr. Mitchell's voice echoed from speakers throughout the bay. How perfect when you're part of us. Individual consciousness is so limiting, so painful. In the collective, there is only harmony. Got it? Elena shouted as sparks flew from the control panel. The massive doors began to grind open, but slowly, too slowly. The transformed crew members were almost upon them. Marcus grabbed Elena's hand and pulled her toward their ship as the possessed researchers rushed into the bay. But something was wrong with the Wanderer. Its hull was covered in the same crystalline growths they'd seen integrated into the station's structure, and bioluminescent patterns pulsed along its surface. Asterisk, it's been feeding on our ship, Elena realized with horror, integrating it into its own structure. Even if we get aboard, we might not be able to fly it. The possessed crew surrounded them, but they didn't attack. Instead, they stood in a perfect circle, their black eyes reflecting the alien patterns that pulsed through their transformed bodies. Dr. Mitchell stepped forward, her expression almost maternal. Don't fight it, she said gently. The fear will pass. The pain of individuality will end. You'll be part of something greater than anything humanity has ever achieved. Marcus felt the compulsion washing over him, the promise of peace, of belonging, of never being alone again. The beautiful ones were singing so sweetly, and part of him wanted nothing more than to stop fighting and join their perfect harmony. It was Elena who broke the spell. She activated an emergency flare, the harsh red light disrupting the hypnotic patterns that pulsed through the station. The possessed crew members stumbled backward, momentarily disoriented, and Alina dragged Marcus toward their ship. The neural patterns work like hypnosis, she shouted over the increasing volume of the alien song. Bright lights and loud sounds can disrupt them temporarily. They fought their way aboard the Wanderer, Alina's flares buying them precious seconds. The ship's systems were corrupted but still functional, and Alina began the startup sequence while Marcus sealed the airlock behind them. Through the viewports, he could see the possessed crew members pressing against the hull, their mouths moving in perfect unison as they sang their haunting song. The engines are responding, but barely, Alina reported from the pilot's seat. The station's growths are interfering with our power systems. We need to break free before they completely integrate us into the collective. Marcus strapped himself in as Alina fired the thrusters. The ship lurched forward, but the crystalline growths held them fast. Through the hull, they could hear the station itself singing now, a sound like whale song mixed with electronic harmonics that seemed to vibrate in their very bones. Full power, Marcus said grimly. If we don't break free now, we never will. Alina pushed the engines beyond their safe limits. Warning lights flashed throughout the cockpit as the Wanderer strained against the organic bonds holding it to the station. The growths began to crack and break, their bioluminescent patterns flickering as the ship tore free. But their escape came at a cost. As they broke away from the Kepler research platform, Marcus could see the station beginning to change. The crystalline growths that had integrated alien technology with human engineering were spreading faster now, consuming more of the structure. What had once looked like a research facility was transforming into something organic and utterly alien. It's not just a trap, Alina realized as she plotted their escape course. It's a chrysalis. The station, the crew, even our ship if we'd stayed longer, it's all being converted into something else, something that can spread to other worlds. The last thing Marcus saw before Alina engaged the jump drive was the station, opening like a flower, revealing a core of pulsing organic matter surrounded by the transformed remains of human technology. And from that core, he saw smaller vessels launching, ships that had once brought other victims to feed the collective. They jumped to hyperspace, just as one of those vessels locked onto their position. 3 weeks later, Marcus and Alina sat in the offices of Colonial Security on Centauri Prime, facing a panel of grim-faced officials. They'd told their story a dozen times, each telling met with the same mixture of skepticism and bureaucratic caution. The problem, said Director Williams, a severe woman with silver hair, is that you have no proof. Our long-range sensors show nothing at those coordinates except empty space. Because it moved, Alina insisted. The station isn't fixed in position, it's mobile, hunting for new victims. By the time your investigators reach those coordinates, it could be anywhere. Even if we believed your story, another official interjected, what would you have us do? Issue warnings about a mythical alien station that may or may not be lurking in the outer rim. Marcus leaned forward, his weathered face intense. Put out an advisory. Warn traders and salvagers about deals that seem too good to be true. Tell them about the signs, the perfect maintenance, the hypnotic specimens. Give people a chance to recognize the trap before it's too late. In the end, they agreed to issue a low-priority advisory, buried in the routine warnings about space pirates and navigation hazards that most spacers ignored. It wasn't much, but it was something. As they left the government complex, Alina touched Marcus's arm. Do you think we made a difference? Marcus looked up at the stars, visible through the dome of the colonial city. Somewhere out there, the Kepler research platform continued its hunt, wearing the faces of Dr. Mitchell and her team while it sang its beautiful, deadly song to lure new victims into its embrace. Maybe, he said finally, maybe someone will. Read that advisory and remember it when they're offered a deal that's too good to be true. Maybe they'll be smarter than we were and stay away before the third day. But as they walked through the crowded streets of Centauri Prime, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Sometimes, in the corner of his vision, he thought he saw familiar faces in the crowd, faces with kind eyes and skin that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. And sometimes, late at night when the city was quiet, he could swear he heard singing. The collective was patient. It had learned to wait, to adapt, to spread. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, it continued to sing its beautiful song, calling to the lonely and the desperate, offering them everything they'd ever wanted in exchange for everything they were. The beautiful ones were always calling, and eventually someone would always listen. Asterisk.